Hey everyone, I'm Aidan Walls, and today we are looking at my very first device that I'm specifically reviewing for the channel. This is a review unit that I bought from Amazon, and I wanted to get something that I could honestly say is the best and cheapest device on the market. It's the Powkiddy V90. Cool, so let's get into it. I'm really excited to look at this. I bought the RG350M for myself because it's a high quality device that'll last me forever. This is something that, you know, let's look into it. I think it's something that I'm going to end up just chucking in my bag and using all the time because it is a bit cheaper. You can be, you're not so concerned about destroying it. And so I think this is going to be something that I carry around with me more often than I think I am. So let's get into it. I just wanted to mention that whoever modeled for them as a hand model has got really, really tiny hands, and it's a bit concerning. Okay, so let's have a look. Cool. All right, so this says things. Oh, here we go. When shutting down, be sure to select the power option in the settings options to shut down, and then turn off the side power button. Otherwise, it may cause the system to okay, so I think it's got a switch for the power off, which is obviously just going to shut off and mess up your SD card. So make sure you use the software, just like you do with Windows. Use the software to shut it down because it is a little computer. Oh, okay, so I was wrong. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so on the website, it said that this was a, it just said 64-bit here, but this is the Powkiddy. So that's quite cool. I'm happy about that. I was kind of bummed that it was just going to say 64-bit, but this is actually a Powkiddy device, so that's cool. Let's check what else is in the box here. It's just a little USB-C cable and a manual. I'm not imagining this manual is going to be super helpful. I don't know, how to copy games. But there's so many good YouTubers and stuff. I'm just going to follow their advice. Probably won't use that much. So let's get that out of the way. Cool. All right, that's the cable. Let's have a look. So the first thing that I want to check is the build quality. With these things, you watch YouTube videos and whoa. Okay, that is, I think it's supposed to do that. You watch these videos and the guys are like, oh, it's great quality or it's terrible quality, and you get it and you completely disagree or whatever. But I think, looking at it now, I think the YouTubers are pretty spot on. It's decent quality. The thing about it is it's just colored plastic, so it's not painted plastic, so that's going to last you. It's decent plastic, and I think that's why everyone's talks about how this is just a nice little device. You see the plastic isn't finished off nicely here, but it's a nice feeling plastic. It's got a sort of faked sandblasted texture. It's got a little lanyard thingy here, so you can connect a lanyard. The shoulder buttons actually feel quite nice. I prefer the feeling of these. It's a soft click compared to the very sharp click I have on my RG350. That's actually very nice. So those shoulder buttons are actually decent. So this is the thing about this device. For the price, this quality is pretty damn good. There's a little, I think this is an old Nokia battery, or Nokia as Americans will say. It's a BL5C battery. I did look for these. They're not super easy to find as far as I know. Disagree with me in the comments. But anyway, it is a replaceable battery, which is nice. SD card, power on, L buttons, the volume rocker. So I really like this. It's a stiff volume rocker, so it's going to find a position and stay there. And my problem with my RG350M is I will often just play just a little bit away from my wife, maybe while she's sleeping or whatever, and I want to have just a little bit of sound, and I can't do that with the RG350M because it's a button and it's got a preset volume for each button press, whereas this I can just set it to just a tiny bit of volume and it's gonna work well for me. Also, these speakers fire up towards you, which is great. Oh gosh, that is a nice D-pad. It's like a soft rubber conductive thing under there, which is really nice. I'm a fan. That is very nice. The travel isn't as much as my RG350M, but that is a nice D-pad. You can hear that the buttons are quite rattly, but also they're small, but nice. And that's a clicky button there. So yeah, that's enough about the build quality. Let's move on to the firmware. So let's fire it up. It does have a little plastic film on here. I'll take that off later. Okay, let's switch it on. NX Hope, which is an old firmware, but they ship it with this NX Hope. Cool. Okay, cool. Let's get to games. The reason we're all here. Okay, so here's your emulators. What's this? So these are preset games. The screen is really nice. It's not as high resolution as my RG350M, but for a $40 device, it's a really nice crisp screen. So what's happening with the shoulder buttons is it's accidentally double pressing, which is not a good sign, but I'm hoping that they just wear in over time. Okay, so the firmware is that NX Hope, a very similar Linux system to OpenDingix. Yeah, pretty nice, nothing amazing, but I'd like to put a nice front end on here, which the MIUI firmware will allow. Okay, so I've already mentioned the ergonomics already. You see, the thing about this is it's got a headphone jack at the bottom, which means I will probably use this sometimes, rather than my RG350M, which has the jack at the top, and I never use it just because, I don't know, there's just something about it coming out the bottom which makes it easier. So there's the RG280V, which is an Ambernic device, and it's this size, and the shoulder buttons are here, but the screen is here and the buttons are here, so you have to hold it like this in order to play. It's more natural to hold like this. That actually, the ergonomics of this just feel right to play like that, and the shoulder buttons there. And so this form factor just feels amazing, like having the screen come out like that. So for me, you know, if someone took this and made a higher end version of it, and a better screen and a more powerful processor, I'd be there. For me, already I'm sold on this ergonomics. It really is nice. And so anyone that's used a Game Boy Advance SP will know what I'm talking about. But for everyone else, you'll have to take my word for it. It really is a nice setup. So let's quickly just answer the question, why is the Powkiddy V90 so good? You know, it's a cheap device. It's, you know, the materials, like I said, it's not finished very nicely. It really is a cheap device. Why is it so good? Firstly, the Game Boy Advance aesthetic. Like I mentioned now, the ergonomics of that, and also just the nostalgia of having something that looks like a Game Boy Advance SP. That is really a desirable thing for anyone who grew up playing one of those devices. It's got passable build quality. So compared to your Ambernic devices, it's not incredible, but it is good build quality. This is gonna, you know, if you chuck this in your bag, it's going to survive. So that's nice. Also, because it closes, it protects the screen. So that is a really big plus for this device, is the passable build quality. It's got, like I mentioned, pretty good ergonomics. It's very nice to hold in the hand. It has a lovely screen. The screen is, you can probably see there, it's pretty decent quality. Like, that is a nice little screen. I don't know how to brighten it just yet, but that is a pretty bright, very nice screen for the price. Custom firmware. Another reason to buy this device and why it is still so good in 2022 is the custom firmware. That MIUI firmware is still getting updated because there are more devices being made that use the MIUI firmware, and so that MIUI custom firmware that's been adapted for this is still getting updates and still works really, really nicely. And I'll put that on in the next full review of this device. And lastly, it's cheap. For $40, you know, I mean, that's for a lot of people, that's not cheap. But, you know, so for my friends in South Africa who've seen me with my RG350M and then looked it online and thought that guy's crazy to spend that kind of money on playing Nintendo on a small little device, this is something that you could probably twist your wife's arm to buying you for Christmas. So it's cheap. And so let's quickly talk about price, because for this price, what else is on the market? You know, I buy on Banggood because the shipping is quite expensive to South Africa from AliExpress from most of the vendors. And so I buy from Banggood, and if you go on Banggood and you have a look at what's available at $40, there really isn't anything else. And then I bought this specific device from Amazon because I had some money that I made from affiliate links on YouTube. And on Amazon, there also is nothing really of quality that can run nice firmware and all that sort of thing. There are all these cheap knockoffs with weird firmware and all that kind of thing. This is a decent device for the price. So, you know, there really isn't anything on the market that competes with this price-wise. Okay, so let's jump into it. This is an unboxing, and I really just want to play with the thing. I still do have that little screen cover, so it's going to probably affect how you see it. But yeah, you're going to see how I've been trying to take this off. I can't get it off. I'm going to have to take some more extreme measures to get that screen cover off. Okay, so let's start with Game Boy. Alright, Super Mario Land 2. Let's go into some Super Mario Land. So it's pulling the screen across. I don't mind that actually for Game Boy. Whoa! See there, I can get it nice and soft when I don't want to bother people. But for 16-bit games, that is not bad audio. Just put it close to the speaker. Okay, let's do some gameplay. Oh, bit of a delay on the D-pad there. So performance not as good as my RG350. But wow, that is nice. I'm just trying to see if there's screen tearing. A little bit of screen tearing, but I don't know if they've fixed it, but I heard people complaining about the screen tearing. But nothing that bothers me. The screen is bright and crisp. Wow, I am really like... For the price, oh my gosh, that is really nice. Actually never played Donkey Kong Country on Game Boy Color. So it stretches the screen, but that doesn't bug me on the screen, which is saying a lot. It's not, the performance isn't incredible. Well, there, I mean, when I'm jumping, it feels very responsive. Now, for instance, racing games like this, okay, so it stretched the screen this way. I'm sure we can scale 3x2. Let's try that. There we go. I think that's the right way to play Game Boy Advance on here. So you got a bit of a what's his name there, but it's really... This is just as good as my RG350M in terms of the Game Boy, the experience. But you know what? The thing is, this little cheap plastic device, everything, it just feels like a childhood toy. It's that nostalgic feeling. So this for me is the ultimate. This with Game Boy Advance games, which is, I mean, what the original one was designed for, obviously, the original form factor like this. Now I am missing my analog stick on my RG350M for a racing game. But I don't know, the screen is great, man. Honestly, I'm enjoying Game Boy, this Mario Kart more than I do on my RG350M. Okay, maybe I won't give this one away. Okay, the shoulder buttons aren't as comfy to use as the RG350M. You've got to, I don't know, it's just something to get used to. Whoops. Man, I'm engaged, that's for sure. Let's get close to that guy. Ah. Okay, again, this just feels like it was meant to be played this way. The buttons are nice. And I gotta be honest, that sort of slightly cheaper vibe just makes it feel authentic. It feels like I'm in the 80s. Or whenever this was designed, the 90s. Some double pressing happening there, and it's handling it fine. The screen, again, I don't know how many times I've said this while I'm doing the gameplay, but the screen is incredible. I don't want to oversell it now. This is an unboxing and I'm excited. There's screen tearing. Okay, so there's a fair amount of screen tearing there. But, you know, guys moan about screen tearing. It just feels like an authentic Game Boy experience. I really like it. So there is some pretty decent amounts of screen tearing. Apparently the MIUI firmware fixes that. But honestly, again, I say this, I've just received this and I'm excited. But, no, it's pretty damn good, eh? Okay, cool. So let's do some Super Nintendo Yoshi's Island. That's looking good. Whoops. Okay, it's quite a bit of stutter. Oh. Whoa, no, this is... Okay, no, this is not playable. So I know that the custom firmware does fix some of these issues. Yeah, if you really want to play, you can, but this is not up to scratch. Classic 16-bit audio happening there. Yeah, the platform isn't rendering on the screen. So that, yeah, okay, so Super Nintendo isn't working on this very well. Alright, so that's unfortunate. Let's go quickly to Mega Drive and let's play Sonic 3. Let's see what this is like. It's worth it just for that sound. Looking good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this is working fine. So, Sonic, if you want to play some Sonic, it's working, man. Nicely. If there's a specific game you're interested in, let me know. But it's a mix and match with this device. I don't think I've ever played this before. Oh, cool. Well, bear in mind, this is a PS1 game. There's a little bit of stuttering, but this is playing better than those Super Nintendo games. That's not bad. This is really cool. Sorry, I'm not showing you the screen. This is really cool. And this is working very well. So if you know some PC Engine games that you are a fan of, this is responding very well. And I'm quite a fan of this 1943 game. This is great. Whoops. Come on. There we go. Yep, this is very cool. Oh, and we've got some arcade games. Let's have a look. Let's go with some more 1944. I wonder if this is going to play, because if you're vertical, see, I can play vertical games on here like this. But here, let's see, it's taking a while to load. Oh, so this isn't the vertical one. This is exactly the same. You see, I struggle to play these games on my RG350M, and this is just playing. So this emulator is quite good. Graphics look really good. Oh, that's the wrong button. There we go. Whoops. Yes. This is loading and playing really well. So this is 1944. It's the MAME emulator on here, so the built-in emulator. So I must remember this for when we do the final review, because this is playing really well. And like I said, on my RG350M, I sometimes struggle with the emulators on RetroArch. Well, the emulator, I don't think there's many emulators for this. So arcade games, the 1944, loading pretty well. Let me know if there's a game you want to try on the stock firmware, and I'll give it a try. As it stands, the stock firmware with the stock games and everything that it comes with, you could give this to someone and they'd be pretty happy. So let's talk about alternative buys. For the price, there isn't really anything like this on the market. For the build quality and what you get out of this device, there isn't much that competes with it. You know, the company have built this, and it has kind of created so much interest and demand that I think the factory is producing them at such a level that they don't have to increase the price, and so it's still competitive, it's still good, it's still something that people want to buy. That being said, here are some of my recommendations. The 280V, we'll put it up on the screen now. The 280V is a more expensive device, a better quality device. I mentioned that the controls for the 280V are here, the screen is here, doesn't have a flip out screen, and the shoulder buttons are in the same place. So you have to hold it like this, and like if you try to play it, that's virtually impossible. So the 280V, if you want something with shoulder, but you're going to play games with shoulder buttons, 280V is not really for you, but it is a higher quality device. And is more powerful. So the 280V is almost double the price, but is better in almost every way except for maybe ergonomics. The Q90 is the brother or sister to this one. The Q90 is the lateral form factor. This is my RG350M. So the Q90 is the brother to this, exactly the same performance, exactly the same specs, just in this form factor. But I feel like this has got the upper hand in terms of just being super retro and cool. So yeah, I think still get this over the Q90. Someone on Reddit said to me they prefer it. So if you really want a laterally arranged device, then get that. The Miyu Mini, I have to mention it because it is probably the best bang for buck right now for what you get. It is the more expensive version of this, I would say. It's a better quality device. It's a well-priced device. It's a more powerful device with a great screen. The Miyu Mini, put a picture on the screen of it now, is the more expensive, best bang for buck on the market. So if you want to take it up another level, get the Miyu Mini. And then I have to mention, put another picture up here of the RG300. The RG300 is, I had to decide, this is the first device I bought for my channel as a review, and I had to decide I need something that I can wholeheartedly recommend as the best bang for buck on the market today. And I do think I made the right decision. I think that the RG300 just has a few quirks. The custom firmware isn't as nice. I don't know if it's as powerful as this one. I think this is a little bit more powerful than the RG300. The RG300 is almost more of a niche because I think that is the perfect Game Boy and Game Boy Color device. If you want that vertical form factor for a Game Boy Color and Game Boy emulation experience, I think the RG300 is actually for you. So I'll definitely get that one day as a recommendation for that specifically. But I still think this has the upper hand, and the RG300, better quality, but more expensive. So conclusions. I think I've spoken about the pros and cons. The build quality obviously isn't wonderful. There's a bit of a cracking noise when you open it, which is just part of the deal. I mentioned actually the one glaring issue I have with this device is the way they installed that screen guard. So I had to break during recording the video because there was something wrong with my camera, and so while I did that, I tried to take the screen guard off. And because I was rushing, I tried to use a little blade just to like peel it off on the edges, and I actually damaged the device here. You might not see it, but I actually cut the plastic there, so there's a little bit of a scratch there now, which really sucks. Eventually I had the brainwave to get a sticker. I got a sticker from a packet of tissues, the sort of resealable sticker, and I stuck it on the edge, and I pulled and I pulled and I pulled and I pulled until it pulled out of under the plastic. So usually every single manufacturer I've ever bought something from, the sticker, the screen guard sticker, is on top of the device after you've installed the screen. They have the screen guard on these screens in the factory, and they're installing them inside the plastic shell with that screen guard. That is a really stupid thing to do. I'm sorry for offending anyone, but that is a really dumb way to do it, because I'm pretty sure many people have damaged their device trying to get that screen guard off, and I did. I know Retro Game Core actually unscrewed the front here, took it off and put it back, but for end users, that's just asking for trouble. I'm hoping people haven't damaged their devices doing that. Fortunately, most people that buy these are pretty handy, sort of nerdy guys like myself, so hopefully that isn't as big an issue as I'm making it out to be. But the thing is, there are so many positives. I mentioned all the devices you could buy for this, but this was the first device I bought for my channel to recommend, and so I really wanted to make sure I bought the right device. And honestly, I think I made the perfect decision. They've compromised on build quality in terms of the plastic shell isn't wonderful, but it is nice plastic, and it's colored plastic. It's not painted plastic. The front firing speakers are great. The control buttons are good. The D-pad is good. The control buttons are a little bit small, but they've got good travel. They've got a nice feeling to them. The D-pad, like, let me just say this D-pad, I prefer it to the one on my RG3, the RG350M, like can you hear that clicking noise? That's the membrane underneath almost like catching and like doing that. This is a nice mushy soft membrane that reminds me of my Famicom, my cheap Famicom when I was a kid. The travel isn't amazing on it, so you know, it doesn't have an amazing travel, but you can see it's nice and mushy. So that is, the controls are great for the price, you know. Got a headphone jack at the bottom here, a volume wheel at the side so I can control my volume nicely. There was a point during the gameplay where I was controlling it and I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I mentioned, but this SD card is a bit of a negative. You have to put your ROMs and your firmware all on one SD. On the RG350M, it's on two. Internal for firmware, external for ROMs. This you have to do it all on one SD card, which is risky. These are, you know, you're using custom firmwares and all that kind of thing, and you run into trouble from time to time. I would say clone this one, the one that came with it, and then do your custom firmware so that you have three cards in the end. One as a backup, one as the original firmware, and then one as your custom firmware, so that you never have that risk of losing something. Anyway, so that is a bit of a downside, but overall I really can't fault this. The form factor is great. I've mentioned it many times, the screen is just excellent. I cannot sing this thing's praises enough. So it's 2022, there are many super cool devices out there in the world, and I think everyone's getting caught up in the AN Odin and all those sort of devices. I'm here to tell you that as someone who enjoys Famicom, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, hopefully I can get it to do Super Famicom. It does Mega Drive, even some arcade games, some of the PlayStation games we're playing. It is really a lovely device. So you play with it until you find the games that work, the games that you like, and you will be super happy with this thing. And I have a feeling that I'm not going to give this away. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.